Americans these days just don't have enough money invested. And while this is partially due to high spending rates and inflation, a lot of it just comes down to the changing times. With pensions going away and the future of Social Security being constantly threatened, Americans are being asked more and more to put their financial future into their own hands. But the statistics are showing us that we aren't keeping up with those demands. As a matter of fact, we haven't even been taught how to or given the time to adjust to these changes. But it's not too late, and every cent counts. We need to start figuring out how much we need to save or how much we need to catch up on, no matter what age we're at. This process is not easy though, because everyone is different. Some of us simply want to buy a few nice gifts for our grandkids, and some of us want to have a yacht. Safe to say, those two retirement funds look very different. Well, we can't address everyone's individual scenario in just one episode. In this video, we hope to go over the process of thinking critically about your financial goals and determine just how much you'll need at each age. To start, I look to see what all the leading experts out there were recommending. From there, I'll let you know exactly what I think about those recommendations and provide some of my own. In our system, we're going to work backwards to determine how much we need at each age based on an example set by the average American. Our hope is that most of us will fall into the average, but if we don't, at least you'll know how much more or less you'll need to invest in order to catch up. Remember, there are many different factors to take into account when it comes to retirement. This can be family, debt, investment allocation, and more. This is just an example to show you a way that you can think about your own personal savings and investing strategy. So let's start. First, we'll determine how much we want to withdraw in retirement based on our current lifestyle. A general rule of thumb is the 80% rule. This rule states you'll likely spend 80% of what you do now in your retirement years. For example, if you spend $100,000 a year now, then you'll need about $80,000 a year in retirement. Your spending goes down because those large expenses such as your car or home are generally paid off by the time you get into those later stages of life. So when we look at the average retiree, they spend somewhere around $50,000 a year in retirement, so that's the number we'll use in our exercise. Next, we'll need to know how much we want to contribute monthly to our investment fund. I generally observe the 50-30-20 rule when it comes to our take-home pay. The average worker takes home about $4,511 a month. That means the average American needs to be contributing about $900 a month towards retirement. So from there, we need to know our estimated return. Since the birth of the S&P 500, the index has returned an average of about 10% a year. So just for simplicity, in our calculation, let's assume we'll get around that. We'll also need to know our desired retirement age and how much money we want to withdraw each year. We'll assume that we'll retreat from the workforce at about 65, seeing that the average retirement age in the United States is about 64. If you watched the previous video in this series, you'll know that 4% is a safe withdrawal rate. In order to withdraw $50,000 a year at 4%, then you'll need at least $1.25 million in retirement. So now that we know what your profile looks like, here's what we need to do at every age to stay ahead of our goals. So let's start with those of us in our 20s. At this point, you should have $0. Here, you're likely starting your journey and it's time to put some dollars in place. As a matter of fact, your 20s and 30s are absolutely massive. If you are young and starting to save and invest in these decades, you are putting yourself at a major advantage. Your aim should not just be to live, but develop wealth and security for you and your family. So first and foremost, set a budget. Know exactly how much money is coming in and what money is leaving your pockets. Most people simply don't know where their money is going. If we don't know this, then we can't make the adjustments we need to reach our goals. A budget makes it clear when we're overspending. The simple exercise of building your budget will clear up the problem areas and make it easier for us to adjust where needed. If you don't have a budget or are simply having trouble sticking to it, check out the budgeting program linked in the description below. It's literally changed thousands of people's lives. Next, let's start paying off any and all high interest debt. We generally define this as debt above 5% outside of your mortgage. This is the most important step to financial freedom. If you can knock this out before 30, then you'll open yourself up to endless possibilities. From there, learn to save 20% of your take-home pay if you can. This habit will leave you with enough cash to not only save for retirement, but make large purchases that eat up your money, such as cars and cash. If you're in school or have yet to generate a solid income, then focus on developing good spending habits. Don't spend more than you make. It's that simple. In here, you want to set yourself up with tax advantage accounts you need to grow your money. A 401k or an IRA, preferably Roth, is amazing at this point. In the Roth scenario, your money gets to grow tax deferred, and if you have an employee match, that's even better. And no matter where you are, always take the match. It's free money. So in your 20s, follow these steps and you'll be far ahead of the game by the time you come to 30. At 30 years old is when you should start taking your investments seriously. Most experts will recommend about 1 times your income saved at this age. We'll assume these benchmarks are accounting for increases in salary, so we'll base our ideal investment number on the median income for this specific age range. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median annual wage for those 25 to 34 is $52,936. Say you're putting away 20% of your take-home pay and end up reaching that 1-time salary goal by 30. By the age of 65, you should come away with over $5 million. This is the power of compounding. By starting early, you make this journey a whole lot easier. With those numbers, some of you may be thinking, Caleb, it sounds like 1 times your salary is a bit overkill, right? As a result, you might be tempted to cut that 20% number back a bit if you're young. But before you do that, take a pause. The numbers we're dealing with are all hypothetical. While it's nice to plan and look towards the future, we also know that the likelihood of you hitting $3.4 million on the dot is basically 0. Some years you are going to have better returns and some years you're going to have worse. With 35 years still remaining until you retire, many things can happen and the world can change. So get ahead now and pull back later in life if you need to. But let's take a step back here as well. In our 30s, before we start throwing our cash into investments, we need to get the rest of our financial life in order. This is when a lot of us are thinking about growing our families. If you have kids or plan to have kids, this is the time to set a nest egg up for them based on your individual family goals. If you plan to pay for your kids' college, funnel some of that excess cash into education savings accounts or a 529 plan. Now, some may argue that our 30s is the last decade where we can comfortably make mistakes and get a feel for things. But what about our 40s? Well, that's where we need to take things serious. In our 40s, benchmarks show that you should have about 2 to 3 times your salary saved up. The median annual wage at this stage is around $63,596. At 2 to 3 times, that is $127,192 to $190,788 saved. Once you hit 40, the recommended numbers start to look big, but remember, if you started early, then you have compound interest on your side. Say you started at 30 with nothing, for example, and invested $900 a month every month thereafter. An expected return of 10% a year would leave you with $184,360 at the age of 40, leaving you right at the 2 to 3 times range. On the flip side, if you're falling behind at this age, you're gonna likely need to play catch up. Just like compounding helps us when we start young, it can also mean that we'll be in trouble if we wait. So if you're just starting at 40, then a $900 a month investment rate at 10% will only leave you with $1.2 million. This is close to our goal, but slightly under. And ideally at 40, we're still young enough that we want to be pacing ahead of our investment goals in case anything happens. So if you're behind, take some time to calculate what you need to do in order to catch up. In our example, a small adjustment from $900 per month saved to $1,000 takes us up to $1.36 million at 65, or just above our investment goal. And we know $1,000 a month sounds like a lot, but we're just doing some basic math here to show you what it would take. At the end of our 40s, we are nearing the end of our career and therefore our earning potential. At this point in life, we want to feel pretty confident that we can retire well and also provide for our families. So now we're headed into our 50s. Okay, you're 50, and the benchmark at this point is around 6 times your income. As you get older, the benchmarks start to get a little tight, but 6 times your income is still a great place to be. In this age range, the median income is about $64,428. This means the median American should have about $386,568 at this stage. Based on a retirement calculator, this will leave you with just over $2 million in retirement. If you started young though, history tells us that you should have far more than this and be well on your way to financial freedom. As a matter of fact, many of you who began saving and investing 20% of your take-home pay in your 20s and 30s should expect to reach financial freedom by the age of 50. If you're in your 50s and currently have nothing, it's not too late to start, but you will need to make some serious sacrifices. If your current investment accounts sit at $0 and we start investing the full $900 a month that we talked about earlier, you'd only come out with $373,023. In order to catch up, you'd need to start putting roughly $3,000 a month aside, which is a lot. If you're just starting at this age, then we need to make some serious adjustments, but it's not too late. You need to start by cutting down your lifestyle as much as possible to catch up on your retirement contributions. Save as much money as humanly possible and throw it into your investments. The next option is to work more and more and increase your income. I talk about this both on this channel as well as on Financial Audit, but there are many ways to get ahead and make more money in this day and age. Whether you go to trade school, pick up a side hustle, get a career certification, or even start a business. And though all of it is easier said than done, some of you may want to adjust your target retirement date. Maybe 65 isn't in the cards, but 70 is. Adding that extra 5 years of compounding makes it significantly easier. This small change lowers the required monthly savings rate from $3,000 all the way down to $1,650. The last tip on this is to reduce your desired retirement lifestyle. Make plans and set your life up in a way that you don't need to spend $50,000 a year in retirement. Learn to enjoy the free things that life has to offer. And remember, the median retirement savings account according to the Federal Reserve is only $164,000. You are not alone in this, and every dollar counts. Though, at the age of 50, many of us may have enough wealth that it makes sense to see a financial advisor. I will say most people don't need a financial advisor, and there's plenty of information out there to do it on your own. Because of the generally high fees, financial advisors make more sense closer to your retirement age. As you get closer to retirement, you can no longer take as much risk as you could have done when you were younger. As a result, you need to focus on preserving your wealth, and an advisor can help you do that. Now we get into the retirement years, which generally start in your 60s. At the age of 59 and a half, you can finally start using that sweet tax advantage cash in your 401ks, IRAs, and other tax advantage accounts. As far as the standard recommendation at this age, experts would like to see around 10 to 13 times your salary saved. Based on our estimate and the benchmarks we've discussed in this video, I think this is far too low. At 10 times salary saved, the average American will only have about $633,360 in retirement. At 13 times, this can rise to $823,368. But based on our goals previous, you'll need about 20 times the median salary of those 55 to 64 in order to hit the $1.25 million goal. As a result, my recommendation is about 20 times or more your salary at this stage. This number seems large, but it's very attainable if you start early. Now, our goal retirement age in this scenario is 65. So if you don't have it right at 60, that's no problem. You'll still have a few more years to get there. Remember that how much you need in retirement is unique. This example can take care of the average American, but plan for your individual situation. Don't focus on securing your retirement, but your family's overall future as well. So, whatever that means to you. Whether you want to pass down some funds or simply make sure your affairs are taken care of prior to retirement. Create a strong budget, have an emergency fund, and a plan. Preparation and planning are the keys to a healthy financial future. And if you find yourself behind, don't worry. There's plenty you can do to get back on track. Cut expenses as low as possible and save. Consider part-time jobs or side hustles. Take care of your health so you can work longer. The options are endless, but they do require some work and dedication from you. Make sure to check out all the resources linked in the description below, as they are what I use or would use in specific situations.